time it is. Marvin Devine, Huber, Axel, and you know how we do.
Yeah, I got the juice. Whip game cool, make them look like cool. Always play cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing. Like 22. Ask me how I made it right here in the booth. I'm always pursued cause of what I pursue. That's greatness, yeah, I gotta make it, I got things to lose. Boy, wanna get in my crew, but you can't get in my crew. Me, XL, and Hugo, way too fireable. When this joint drop, better call the troops. And when you hear the drop, better raise the roof. Better raise the roof.
You already know what happens when we link up. Let's go.
Yeah, I got the juice. Yeah, I got the juice. Whip game cool, make them look like cool. Always play cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing.
I'll find a better one. Sorry about that, guys. Looks like my mic was muted, but saying what's going on, guys? What is going on? Welcome back to the Locked In Podcast, episode 146. In tonight's episode, excited for this one. It's another monetary one, and we're going to see if we can get Mario in here, too, to hop on this one with me as he's tentative tonight, but have a good outline for you guys here as we navigate. So what are we talking about? What's the headline? What's the topic? If you guys saw the promotion, you're going to see that the topic is, I make a decent income, so why am I still broke? So we've talked about these types of things on the podcast before. I'm going to break it down what the societal traps that ultimately keep you broke are. So if you're making a decent salary, a salary where you typically should be bringing and saving money, you should be seeing, say you're a single adult, you're making a good income, so you're going to look at it from a perspective of you're making a lot of money, but maybe you got an increase in salary, but you're still not saving money. There's still not money that's going in and pouring into yourself each month. We're going to talk about that because there are a lot of traps out there that ultimately keep you broke. Got caught up in this myself many times, and you start to wonder, where does my money go, right? Where's my money going? So we're going to talk about that, and then we're also going to talk about the habits of financially stable individuals. So there's really solid financial habits that a lot of financially stable individuals that I know and habits that I started doing myself to start being able to save and invest more money. Even while actually staying at a similar income before I even started making more money. So we're going to talk about that here tonight. And if I can get Mario on, Mario is great at saving, putting aside money himself. So would love to get him on. He's tentative tonight, depending on if he has enough time to pop on here. But either way, I am going to walk us through here tonight. So guys, before we even dive into it, as always, if you're watching on YouTube and you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell to turn notifications on. We release content every single week related to either personal growth or sports, 95% of the time personal growth. So you don't want to miss it. This is kind of a Christian-based podcast, so a lot of it we lean on the foundation of faith here. This is the type of topics that you guys are interested in. Make sure you subscribe to us. And like I said, that little notification bell, that's going to give you the notifications each week to let you know. And hit the like button too. It really helps us out with the algorithm, helps push our content out to people who need to see this or want to see this. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, assuming you're already part of the community with that, because you wouldn't be watching either if you weren't. So thank you for that. Still, hit that like button just like on YouTube because it really helps us out with the algorithm to push this content out for people to see it who want and need to see it. Comment down below here tonight, guys, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. If it's on YouTube, I can put your comments on the screen. On Facebook, due to meta privacy concerns, I can only read it out loud. Still, feel free to comment in. I check Facebook just as well as the YouTube comments as they come in. Guys, with that being said, enjoy the podcast. Excited for the calendar here, guys. I just want to give a shout out to Zach Round, my buddy from California, who joined in last week when we talked about gender wars, how they're not really a war. It's mainly unhealed trauma. We got a little bit into the problem that we're dealing here with a lot of divide in this country, racism, a lot of other things. Me and Zach were able to touch on that at the end. Probably have another episode more related to that because a lot of it was on gender wars and healing trauma last week due to it just being me and Zach. Next week, we have another After Hours episode coming through. I'll talk to you guys more about that towards the end of this podcast episode, but excited for that. All right, guys, so let's dive into finances, something I like all too well. This is a topic that's near and dear to me. Love talking about this, but also like educating people because I am always educating myself. I'm continuing to educate. I feel like you can never know enough on this. Finances, fun fact, is actually the second most mentioned topic in the Bible, guys. I don't know if you knew that. Behind love. So there is finance related, and I'm not saying the word finance, but I'm saying topics related to money in your financial house. This is one of the most talked about topics in the Bible. Believe it or not, it's a fun fact if you didn't know it. It's right behind love. It's talked more about than salvation or hell, which is a fun fact. But your financial house is important, guys. It's stability. As men, it's important for us to be able to provide a stable household for our family, for our wives, and for our children. And even if you're a single man, for yourself. You know what I mean? We weren't born on this earth to struggle. And everybody's financial situation is unique. everybody's scenario is different. So you cannot compare two scenarios because everybody is dealing with a different walk of life, depending on what their fixed costs are, depending on their spending habits, their budgeting, their credit situation, whatever it is. Everybody's in a different situation, but there are ways to climb out of certain situations too. It just takes due diligence, it takes patience, and it takes just having a game plan. I think that's the biggest thing, is having a game plan and sticking to it. When you don't have a game plan, the roadmap in your head is chaotic. There's no real possible way to be able to stick to it. Believe me, I've tried. If I don't set aside a budget, I'm not intentional about it. What I do notice is I try to budget in my head, and it just never seems to ever. I seem to never be able to save what I think I can save, or invest what I think I can on a monthly basis, or put aside money for a house, or different types of things. These types of things, if I'm trying to do it just in my head, it's a struggle. It really is, because we don't account for everything. We really need to get everything down on paper, in a spreadsheet, whatever it is, and really just allocate like our percentages. Ideally, we say the 50-30-20 rule. And what do we say for that? But this is not, here's the thing. It depends on what your fixed costs are. It depends on what your bills are. If you have high fixed costs, this 50% might just not be there, and you might have to hedge down the debt. So we really need to look at it. But 50% is typically for your needs. So your bills, what are you paying on a monthly basis? That's your housing costs, whether you're rent or mortgage, what goes into your monthly payment, right? Your property taxes and other things, utilities, car notes, food, phone bill, cable, whatever it is, right? Car insurance, gym bill, other needs, toiletries, all those little things, they make up your costs. If you're paying student loan payment, those are your needs, your bills, the things that you have to pay. And then ideally, you want to keep 20%. And this is what they tell you, actually pay yourself first if you can. And ideally, you want this to be 20%. But like I said, your fixed costs really that's going to be the first line that's really going to dictate what you can kind of do, or what percentages you can allocate towards your percentages here. So if your fixed costs are higher, you probably could do less of this. If they're lower, you might be able to actually invest more into yourself. So they say pay yourself. So put money into your savings and your investment accounts if you have them, retirement, if you don't already have a retirement account set up, 401k, all those types of things. Savings, whether you're saving for a trip, whether you're saving for a home, whether you're saving for some type of project, whatever it is, saving to start a business. These types of things you want to put into the 20%. Ideally, like I said, that percentage could be lower or higher depending on your fixed costs. And then you have 30%. 30% is, I don't want to say fun money, but money that you can spend kind of whatever. Like if you like eating out, or you like shopping, or whatever it is, entertainment. Maybe if you have kids, taking your kids out to enjoy themselves. Like, these things are not, this is the thing though. People get caught up in the 50-30-20. And what I would say is your situation is really going to differ. And we can't go back and change our fixed costs. Hey, if you have certain things like student loans, you got to pay them off. They're not going anywhere. I know people talk about this student loan forgiveness. Here's the thing. You cannot bank on that. Those types of things aren't going anywhere. So that's when you're locked into, right? If your fixed costs are high, say you have a car note, you might be, here's the thing. It depends on if you're underwater on the car, but if you're not, you might be able to get rid of the car. And guess what? A lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people don't want to get rid of their car, but you have to really figure out if certain things are keeping you underwater. Homes too, right? Like sometimes there's a thing called house poor. If you over leverage yourself with a high end mortgage that you're struggling to pay, here's the thing: just because you qualify doesn't mean you need to get that type. You need to take out that type of mortgage for a home. Just because you have really good credit doesn't mean it, because you really can be house poor. That's a serious thing. I'd rather start small somewhere, that's comfortable for me, my family. It's still comfortable enough, and then be able to maybe not make that my forever home, and then grow into something bigger as I elevate in my career, in my business, make more money, and be able to kind of move into something else. Rather than just going for the home run right away and being completely house poor, not being able to travel, enjoy ourselves because we're always stressed and worried about bills. Because one of the number one indicators of divorce, right, is finances, financial stress. Guys, it's a big one. All right. So I'm going to break down the guys some of the societal traps. So you're probably saying, right, Maybe you don't make the salary that you want. Maybe you're still leveling up. That's okay. Maybe you're at a spot, though, where you're making a really good salary right now. And you're like, I can't understand why I'm broke. I don't understand why I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Let's talk about some of the reasons why this can still happen. One of the biggest ones is inflation. And I don't mean inflation in the economy because it's such an easy out, right? Now I'm talking about inflation of your own lifestyle creep. This is a big one. This is one of the biggest ones, right? Say you go from making $50,000 a year to $100,000, or from $100,000 a year to $150,000, and now you're still not saving money. What's the common denominator there? But your bills have stayed the same. Lifestyle creep, because you're spending as much as you're making. As your income rises, luxuries like frequent dining out, premium subscriptions, a nicer car, they essentially become the essentials to your life. Not really needs, but you seem like they're needs, right? Like we need them now. But then you wonder, why could I live off of these things when I had a lower paying job? You want to know why? Because you have it's your mindset around money is the problem. This is for a lot of people too. And here's the thing: this is not something that has to plague you for the rest of your life. It's not something that's incurable. Sometimes we need therapy for these types of things, like what's going on internally that's making us believe that as soon as we get paid, that like you ever hear the saying, "Money burns a hole in your pocket." Like it's literally like when you get paid, you need to spend. You feel like you need to spend. It's a real thing for far too many people. And when I was younger, I would sometimes be the same way. I remember when I was younger, like in my college years, I couldn't save money for me. And I still could. I could have saved money, but I was just spending all my money. Like I was, not really saving in my early 20s and stuff. And honestly, I just wish I would have started sooner, like putting money aside, saving more, investing earlier. You know what I mean? I'm always transparent on this podcast, so I'm always very honest with everybody on here. I don't shy away. I don't have anything to hide, and I don't really care. It's all right for me to share those things, because if somebody can take something from that and somebody can learn something from that, hey, I'm good. And I'm learning things from mentors myself that are in their 40s and stuff, right? I'm learning not to make the same mistakes that they did. And this is what it's all about, because life is about mistakes, and you're going to make them. But being able to teach other people so they don't make them, So lifestyle creep, that's one of the biggest ones. The convenience trap, right? We are in a society where everything is on demand. Everything's on demand. So a lot of busy high earners, people who make a lot of money, right? Because they're busy all the time. They pay a premium to save time through delivery services, outsource chores, last minute bookings, while they quietly bleed cash. And you know what? This is not just for high earners. People like convenience. So even if you're not making a lot of money, a lot of people still do this and then wonder, why am I broke? Well, you're doing everything out of convenience. I understand if you're a very, very busy person, maybe you don't have time to hit the grocery store. Maybe you are making money. Here's the thing. You can trade time for money too. I know people that are very well off. They do very well financially, and they do not grocery shop. They get everything delivered, and they can afford it. But what it does is they trade their time for money, but they can comfortably do it. And you know what? They spend more of that time making more money, finding ways to make more money and ways to, they have a business. They're working on their business instead of going to the grocery store. These things are, that's the thing, that they are willing to make the risk to trade that time for that money. If you have the time and you're just purely don't feel like it, I hate to break it to you, that might really be killing your budget. You might just need to get up and go to the grocery store or go to the shopping or whatever it is. Everybody wants to save time, and I understand that. It's time you can spend pouring back into your family and other things, but we also have to be realistic about our budget. I don't know your budget. The only way is for you to break open your books and be able to write everything down, put everything into a spreadsheet, and be able to see, hey, where are we spending too much? Where could we cut back? Where could we save money where we can? And sometimes you have to make more money too, right? You have to look and see what's out there. But a lot of times it's just tailoring our budgets and really just figuring it out. This was one I was telling you guys about. You're fixed cost heavy. So what I mean by that is you've locked yourself into some non-negotiable expenses. Maybe you have a large mortgage, high-end car payments, expensive private school student loans that you made those decisions when you were younger, and now you're locked into them, right? I think student loans are one of the most predatory things. You know that? I think student loans, these companies prey on kids when they're younger. And it also doesn't help that we are taught as young kids to go to college. You need to go to college to be successful, which is absolutely not true. What I would tell you too is college is like important if you're going to go for the right, you know what I mean? You're going to go for a career that's going to pay an investment on it. So like I said, I think it's one of the most predatory things. You have to be careful. When it comes to fixed costs, student loans are a big one. We make those mistakes in our early 20s. I don't want to say mistakes because it's not a mistake, to be honest, if you have a career that's going to pay that investment forward, right? You know, you know what I mean? And I feel like you can still learn something from college, but it's very expensive, depending if you go to university or if you go to community college. There's a big difference there. If you go to a university, you don't have a scholarship and you don't have any type of grants or anything like that. It can be very expensive. And if you live and you get housing there and room and board and all that stuff, very, very expensive. And if you don't go for a degree that is going to pay an investment, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of different ones. So like nursing, if you go to be a doctor, you go to law school, you go for engineering, you go for finance. So there's others too, among others, you know what I mean? I know people that went communications, you know, you can. I know people that have done that. And it really depends on what you're going to school for. But there are a lot of majors that they don't pay the dividend. They don't pay the dividends, the return on your investment. And then you're stuck with a large student loan payment. God forbid you lived on campus all 4 years, you didn't have any grants, any scholarships, and you're paying, you know, $100,000 student loan or more. It's a lot, you know, it's a lot. It can get you stuck in a debt cycle. And why I think student loans are one of the worst ones is because that is one of the few debt obligations that is not removed from your obligations in a bankruptcy. So if you go bankrupt, if you declare bankruptcy, you can't wipe the student loans. I think student loans only wipe when you pass away. So you can't wipe your student loans. It's horrible, in my opinion. And, you know, people can get into so much debt over their ears from this. And it's, you know, the one thing is a lot of times the interest rates aren't as high as like credit card debt and stuff like that, but it can still get really, really bad. You know, it can be it can get really, really bad. Sorry, silence that. But fixed costs, they leave you very little flexible cash. So what I would say to that is you have to find a debt pay down strategy. There's a lot of different methods out there, and every situation could be different for you. One of the biggest, you know, people that I followed for this is Dave Ramsey, and a lot of you have probably heard of him. I don't agree with all of his investment methods, realistically, but I do like. I love his debt repay down strategies, guys. If you could check, you know, he's one person, but you know, check him out. He has a lot of different strategies, but I would say, learning how to pay down some of that debt or certain things like, look, if you have a really expensive car and you're not underwater on it and you can get rid of it, like, I'm going to be honest with you, if it's causing you to completely struggle, a car is a liability. Yeah, a nice car is cool. It's a status symbol. But look, it's not worth jeopardizing the future of your wife and your children. You know, if you're a married man or even a single man, you're struggling and you're underwater. It's not worth it. Like, you can always get a car at another time. The car market's not going anywhere. But, you know, we build attachment to things. But I'm going to be honest with you is that these things can really hold you back. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. Peace of mind, I think, is more important, in my opinion. And good things come in time as you continue to level up, as you continue to make more money. You know, invisible debt. So this is another one. High earners often have access to large credit limits too. So if you're making really, really good money, making it easy to carry significant balances to drain income with high interest rates. So if you're carrying credit card debt each month, this is something that you're carrying and you're paying, you know, a high APR, a high interest rate. These things can really weigh you down. The I deserve this mentality. So using your I deserve a treat. I deserve this. And like, let me treat, what do they say? Treat yourself. This is a big one. It's okay to treat yourself every once in a while, but if you're treating yourself every single time, every single day, okay, well, it's a little bit different. If you can afford it, cool. But if you can't, then you might really need to buckle down and look at your budget and see what's going on there. Using your hard work to justify impulsive self-care purchases. And when I say self-care, I mean self-care, and I say that in quotations because I think every time we think we treat ourselves, we think it's a self-care ritual. It's not all the time, to be honest. Purchases, they can lead to emotional spending that bypass your budget. Tax inefficiency, too. Without strategic planning, a higher tax bracket keeps you a smaller percentage of every dollar earned compared to the low earners. One thing people don't look at, tax inefficiency. That's a big one. Guys, let me just look at Facebook real quick. I always like to see, pull up. But that's another one. People don't really think about that. You know that when it comes to your taxes, how you go into a higher tax bracket, you're paying more taxes. Guys, this is that's a real one. Let's see. All right. Go back to my notes here. All right. One of the ways, so how do we figure out what is weighing us down? Well, it requires you opening up your budget, really just looking into it. So I can give you some of the indicators of financial creep, stagnant savings, even though you started to make more money. So if you got a promotion at work, or maybe you got hired for a role in another company where you're making more money, or maybe you started a business and you're seeing more money than you've ever seen before, but your savings stay the same. That's a key indicator of lifestyle creep. Your lifestyle increased once you started making more money. Living paycheck to paycheck. You are still waiting, even though you're making more money, you're still waiting for the next deposit to cover basic bills despite earning more money. Another one is money dysmorphia. So what do you mean by that? You heard of probably body dysmorphia, right? But this is like a false sense of security when it comes to your finances. You feel financially secure despite being objectively stable, often driven by comparing your life to others on social media. This is a big one. People get body dysmorphia, but financial money dysmorphia is a real thing too. It really is. Steps. So how do we regain control of that? So if you're really struggling financially and you're making more money and you're still continuing to struggle, what I would tell you is you need to track your money. And that might sound really obvious. And it might sound, Steve, what are you talking about? It's common sense. I know I need to do this. I don't feel like doing it. Well, you don't have to write everything down pen and pad. There is pen and paper. There are a lot of free tools and apps out there that can help you do this. You can use an app. You can use a spreadsheet for 30 days. See where the leaks are. That's what I would say. This is what you need to play with to kind of see and just monitor yourself. Look at your behavior throughout the month. This is where you're going to be able to see what's going on. You're going to get an overview. You're going to get a picture. And it's going to take you like at least a month to really see. You know what I mean? It's going to take you a month because you can look at previous expenses and stuff like that. But you really want to see when you set yourself a budget to see how hard it is for you to stick to it. It takes a lot of discipline sometimes, and it's difficult when we're not used to it. See where those leaks are. Like maybe there's unused subscriptions. Maybe there's delivery fees that are occurring, and there's different things that you got going on that you're like, okay, I could have saved money there. When you're more conscious of that spending and where your money's going, you know what it does? It gives you a sense of control again. And that's going to feel good. That's honestly going to feel good to you because when you don't have a sense of control, it feels hopeless. I've been there. Trying to track everything in my head, and then I'm like, I feel hopeless. But it's because I didn't have a system. I'm telling you guys, put together a system. Track those dollars. Automate your savings if you can. So I would say move a set percentage from a separate account before you do your check-in. So that's the pay you first thing. It says ideally 20%, but at the end of the day, we don't all know what people can save. Sometimes it's 10%. Sometimes it's 5%. You know what? It's better than nothing. You might be saving nothing, or maybe be spending more than or even worse, maybe spending more going into debt, credit card debt each month because you're not So anything you can save is going to be better than nothing. We'll promise you that. Implement a 24-hour rule. I love this one because you know what? I used to do this sometimes. Wait one full day before making any type of non-essential purchase. And for impulse setting to curb it. And after 24 hours, if it's something you still want, go ahead and make the purchase. If you feel it's so financially sound. But if it's not something you still want, there you go. Sit on it. Wait it out. Don't just go make those purchases. Sit on it. Audit your fixed costs. So review your must-pay bills to see if you can downsize some of these recurring expenses. Maybe it's car insurance. Maybe it's cell phone plans. Maybe it's, like I said, car notes, unfortunately. If you're not underwater, it's not so easy, but if you're not underwater, hey, you might be able to make a move on that. So let me go here to other notes here. All right, guys. So what are some of the, so those are some of the societal traps. How do we avoid them? I did say in this episode too that there were habits of financially stable individuals. And I'll break down what they are for you guys. So financially stable individuals, they have a certain set of habits that they've adopted over time. And they're going to look different than people who struggle with their finances. Now, these people who have these financial habits, have adopted them. They were probably struggling once too. But let's see what they do. And how do we emulate them? So I'm going to break it down into categories. I'm going to say proactive budgeting, debt management, strategic saving, investing, mindset and long-term planning, and then there's some other key habits. All right. So on the proactive budgeting section, detailed budgeting is going to help you create and adhere to your budgets that track your income, expenses, savings, and investments, track your expenses, do regular reviews. So what I mean by that is, and I want to say for track your expenses, actually, real quick, let me pivot to that. There are a lot of apps out there. You guys can find your own. One of the good ones that I've seen is Rocket Money. It's a good one that can help you automate and just, you add your bank account. It can see all your expenses. You can categorize them. And there's a free version of it too. So you can regular reviews. So, what do financial stable people? They regularly review their financial plans and budgets to make adjustments as needed. They distinguish their wants and versus their needs. And this is a big one. And that's why I say sometimes this might actually require you going to therapy to rewire your impulse control and stuff and rewire your thinking. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's internal. It really is. I think a lot of the time it is. But distinguishing your needs versus your wants, focusing on the necessities and strategic purchases rather than impulse spending. But I always say with therapy, you're going to get what you give. You can't just go and expect there's a magic guru that's going to be able to change your attitudes. You have to be willing to make the change. That's what I would say first and foremost. So let's go to the strategic investing and saving section. So what do? A lot of successful financial individuals, like financially stable individuals, they pay yourself first. That's what I said earlier, right? Pay yourself. They automate their savings. They treat contributions to saving and investment accounts as non-negotiables, just like their fixed bills. That's a non-negotiable. Emergency fund. They maintain a dedicated high-yield savings account for emergencies, typically covering about 3 to 6 months of expenses. It gives you a nest egg. God forbid anything happens on your home. God forbid there's any type of medical expenses or emergencies. God forbid something happens to your vehicle, your car, your SUV, your truck, whatever. These things are going to have, that's what an emergency fund is for. Consistent investing. So they invest regularly to build wealth through compound interest, often taking advantage of employee-sponsored retirement plans, or for this example, 401ks, or you could do IRAs. There's Roth IRAs, there's traditional IRAs. The difference between those two, you guys can really look them up. We've had episodes on it. The Roth, your money is tax-free at retirement, and traditional IRA, I believe it's taxed at retirement, but it goes in tax-free. So just different investment vehicles. You can really look into it. Diversification. These guys, what do these men and women do who are successful financially? They spread their investments through different asset classes, stocks, bonds, real estate, to reduce their risk. They don't put all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. Debt management and credit. What are the other things? This is one of the big ones, right? They avoid high interest debt. So they avoid unnecessary debt, particularly high interest consumer debt, like credit card balances, which they pay in full each month. Like I said, credit card balances typically are, they're high interest. You see these APRs, 29.99%. You get these crazy interest rates. Strategic use of credit. So when it comes to credit is not a bad thing, but I don't think everybody is a credit card person. Maybe not at certain stages of their life. If they struggle impulsively, credit cards can really be a detriment. So if you know how to strategically use your credit card, you use the credit cards for rewards or convenience, not to live beyond your means. You use them for the rewards that they give. That's it. Things that you were already going to put on, you were already going to spend, and then you just pay it off. Monitoring their score. They regularly check their credit reports to ensure accuracy and maintain a good score. Mindset and long-term planning. This is another big one. They live below their means. I think that sounds really simple, guys, but that is what successful or financially stable individuals do. They resist the lifestyle inflation. It means they're not going to increase their spending when their income rises. They're not going to buy into the lifestyle creep. Long-term focus. They view wealth building as a marathon, not a sprint. This is key. Focusing on long-term goals like retirement rather than short-term goals or short-term gains. You can gain money in the short term, but you have to have a long-term focus and an outlook when it comes to that. Seriously, that's a big one. You have to be able to have that type of viewpoint. That's what a financially stable individual is going to have. The most successful people financially, these are the things they do. Living below your means, a lot of it is the same, right? Keeping up with the Joneses. I don't know who the Joneses are, but everybody's trying to keep up with them. To be honest with you, social media has just amplified this. We see somebody's on this new big, huge vacation. They got the newest car, newest pair of sneakers, newest Louis Vuitton bag. They just got a huge house. You don't really know what's going on behind the scenes in people's financial pictures and financial situations. Just because they got a big house doesn't mean they're not over leveraged. Just because they're going on some vacation doesn't mean they're not paying for it on a credit card. Just because they got the new Louis Vuitton bag, new pair of sneakers, same thing. Doesn't mean it's not a credit card and they're up into their ears in debt. That's the one thing is don't ever wish to put yourself in someone else's life. You really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And that's not hating. Some people really are financially okay. But when there's nothing good that comes from comparing yourself negatively to other people from a financial aspect. When you don't feel secure with yourself and you have self-esteem issues, this is where this comes into play. If you stay grounded in the Bible, you stay grounded with God, start to understand that you kind of have everything that you do really need. Yes, it is okay to have nice things. It's okay to be and to want to financially grow and all that stuff. But sometimes it's not your timing. It's God's timing. And you're not there and you're trying to keep up with other people and you're buying things to keep up with other people or what their lifestyle is, that's a mistake. You need to be secure in who you are so that you don't care about that. That's not going to upset you seeing other people win, so on, quote unquote winning, because you don't really know like I said, what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of people that are flashy on social media, a lot of times are going through the most financial issues. You don't really know. So be secure in who you are. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Like I said, I don't know who they are, but everybody's trying to keep up with them. Professional guidance too. Financially stable individuals, they do seek professional guidance too. Sometimes they often work with financial advisors to create long-term comprehensive financial plans. I would say with financial advisors, it really depends on how much money you're really bringing in. You can work with them. Financial advisors are, good, but you do have to pay fees for financial advisors. Sometimes your financial plans really aren't that complex that you really need a financial advisor. But if you're someone that does not have any type of basic financial knowledge and you're struggling, I would say go to YouTube, try to find all the information if you could on the internet. If you still really can't figure out how to budget or make your finances work for you, investments, all this stuff, then yeah, you might want to seek the guidance of a financial and the counsel of a financial advisor. Lifelong learning, so they continue to educate themselves about personal finance, investments, investing, and market trends. It's a big one too. There's a lot of information out there, guys. Other key habits. So what do we come to here? Pay your bills on time, because when you don't, you know what I mean. You're paying late fees, penalties. What you can do is you can automate bill payments. And I understand, some people don't want to do that, but just make sure you keep note of your bills and make sure you pay them on time. Like I said, it depends on what you're going through, but you ideally want to pay your bills on time, especially things like a mortgage and stuff where you could lose your home. I would say always pay your bills on time if you can. If you're, what I mean? I don't know what season you're in, but pay those bills on time. Maintaining your property. So financially stable individuals, they take care of their assets like their homes and cars to avoid costly repairs and replacements. When you put things off, a lot of times more damage down the road. And health maintenance. They prioritize physical health to reduce their long-term medical expenses. That's a big one too. I would say prioritize your emotional and mental health too, because you know what? If you can do that, that is going to help you with impulse control. Guys, let's check our comments here. Let's see. One second. One second. All right, guys. So I'm just trying to check the comments, see if anybody's commented in. So bear with me. Covered a lot here. I don't know if Mario is going to pop one, but it's all good. Finances. Yeah, guys. I mean, this is what it comes down to, though. There's a lot of good financial habits. I'm gonna hang out for a little bit, and we're gonna see. I went through my notes here, but if we have any questions, feel free to ask me here tonight. Yeah, I feel like finance is one of the ones that we don't people don't like to talk all the time about finances, but it's such a critical thing. It's so important. We need to discuss it. It's so important. Let's see if anybody comes in here tonight. Like I said, so guys, we'll see if anybody locks in before the or pops on in before. I don't know if Mario, like I said, he's coming on, but went through all the points. Essentially, that's what you need to do. Though you need to be able to emulate, these type of financial habits. The one thing I'll tell you is your situation is going to look different. For everybody's situation is going to look different. So that's why I really say is one of the biggest things you have to be comfortable with who you are, though, because that's what it is. It's a mindset. You know what I mean? If you're making good money and you're still broke, it really is because you're keeping up with that lifestyle creep. That's a big thing. We have to evaluate ourselves. And if we can't figure it out ourselves, that's why I say, you could seek out. Everybody's path is different. Like I said, I don't ever push my faith on other people. But if you are a Christian, seek out your church, seek out counsel, seek out therapy. These things are. There's a lot of things that you guys can do. There's a lot of options. So figure out what it is that you need to do. But lifestyle creep is such a big one. That's why I say keeping up with the Joneses. I don't know who the Joneses are, but everybody's trying to keep up with them. Stop trying to keep up with other people. Social media exacerbates it. Sometimes we need to reduce our social media usage. We have to really figure out. But I say, like, if you're comfortable with who you are, these things are gonna be able to you'll be able to shift. Like you need to understand that just because you want certain things in this lifestyle, right, in this world right now, maybe this isn't the season that God has it planned for you. There's nothing wrong with continuing to grow, continuing to make more money, continue to build financially. That's a big thing. Guess what? You can enjoy the fruits of your labor as you grow. Zach said, "What's up? What's up, brother? I actually gave you the shout out, man, for coming on last week, man. Appreciate you, my guy. What's up, man? It's a big topic, man. Talking finances here. I was also saying, I don't know if you know this, Zach, but any topic related to finances, like it's the second most talked about thing in the Bible. Believe it or not, behind love. Love's number one. Financial house, getting it in order, so important. So important. We check out Zach's page too, guys. Tumor Warrior Media on I don't know if he gave the handle last week, but Zach has a lot of good stuff going on over there. You can find it. It's Tumor Warrior _media on Instagram. So go check out Zach. Check out his story. Yeah, but getting your financial house in order, it's pivotal, especially as a man. You have to. Ain't nobody coming to save us, guys. Fixed cost debt, it can really pile up. Can really put us into depressive states, you know what I mean? But the only thing we can do is understand that it's a day-by-day thing. It's about being proactive. It's about having a game plan. Like I said, don't try to organize everything in your head. I did it for a long time, and you know what? It's very chaotic. Really put things down into an app. Put things down into a spreadsheet. Put things down. If you have to go old school, pen and paper. You have to have a game plan. It's gonna be your best friend. If you can have a game plan, and that game plan is going to be different for everybody. Like I said, everybody likes to bring up the 50, 30, 20 when it comes to 50% of your expenses are your bills, 30% is your money that you have to freely spend, and then 20% goes to yourself, investing, saving, all stuff. Yeah, well, it really depends. That's why I said your fixed costs and your income are what are going to determine what the rest of the mountain looks like. So if your fixed costs are more than 50% of your income, you either got to make more money or you got to be able to cut back on some of those fixed costs, whether it's selling your car. Like if you're paying a car note and you're not underwater on it, selling the car. Student loans, unfortunately, you can't do anything about. You're locked in. But finding ways to reduce your fixed costs or make more money. And then guess what? The rest of that mountain looks differently. You might not be able to put 20% aside for your investing and for your savings and for your retirement and all those types of things. You might not be able to. You might be able to do less, or you might have more. Maybe your fixed costs are less than 50% of your income. In that case, you might have more than 20% to put away. It really depends, and that's where it's going to start. As a financial person myself, personal finance is something that means a lot to me. It's personal, near and dear to my heart. I want to help people financially and help them grow. But like I said, everybody's different, and what their walk is. That's why you really just need to break out the books and look at your expenses, look at what you're making, and just really be able to look. And your game plan is going to be different than everybody else's. Your debt matters. Like I said, it's going to be different for everybody. Zach said, I did not know that, but I'm broke as fuck. Yeah, man, it's a tough economy. It depends on where you live. Everything is different, and it's one of the biggest stressors, right? It's like we're always trying to figure out how do we make more money? How do we do this? How do we do that? And we don't always have people around us that know or have taught us how to manage our money effectively. If we grew up in a household where our parents were not financially stable, we're not been able to learn from them. Maybe we don't have family members who people are able to learn from. It's a struggle. That's why I say try to surround yourself with mentors and friends and people who are on the same path and trying to grow and level up, or people you can learn from, because it's important. People you can relate to too, I would say. People who were financially stable but were born into wealth, you might not be able to relate to if you were someone that was born middle class. You know what I mean? People that can understand and resonate with your struggle, but maybe they're making strides or they're doing something that they're growing. That's where you can learn from people like that, for sure. But so I wanted to get Mario on here tonight because I know he is really good when it comes to saving. Honestly, this guy is Mario. He's one of literally the pillars here. One of our guys, behind the scenes here with the podcast. But what I would say about Mario is he's very good when it comes to understanding the importance of a budget, understanding from going from a small salary to a bigger salary, but just maintaining his lifestyle, not getting crazy, being able to, he understands a lot. Like he's come a long way with understanding credit, how to utilize the rewards, he's the perfect example of not keeping up with the Joneses. I would say Mario does not fall into the temptation. He is completely comfortable with who he is in terms of his finances, and there's people that go, you're too strict with your money, you're too this. Literally, I've seen it. He does not bend. He's very comfortable with who he is financially, and I respect the hell out of him for that because Mario is one of my closest friends. And I respect that. I was like, honestly, you're building a solid foundation, and that's going to pay off down the line. When he wants to have his family and everything like that. If that's what he wants. But honestly, I admire that because he's come from nothing. He's come from literally his parents came from another country, and I was like, I respect that. How his parents kind of showed him the way too with that. So he's comfortable, with what he's doing. But we grow. Rob's another one. Rob has come here. Rob's one of our pillars too. But Rob is, he built his business. He was able to get some knowledge from his dad, who also worked in real estate, and they were able to grow. And he's growing his empire as well. My parents, they came from middle class lifestyle and were able to, teach me things as well financially. I'll tell you what, my dad told me a lot of things about credit, understanding the importance of credit. They might not have the most money in the world, but retired, living comfortably, was able to put money aside, was able to not only have a house in Philadelphia, but able to put money aside to get a shore house as well and a campground down the shore. And so where me and my brother were able to live comfortably, or have a good lifestyle, have a good childhood where we could go down the shore and had friends in Philadelphia and friends down in New Jersey, and that's the thing. Like, very grateful. Learned from my parents in those ways, and you know what I mean. Like, just understanding credit, the importance of it. I was taught that at a young age. But not everybody has that. You know what I mean? They don't. And my parents aren't like maybe the richest financially, but it's like I learned like some of the basic habits. And there were other things that they didn't really know too much about too. And I'm teaching myself and I'm learning from other people. So this is why I feel like this is a passion for me, is because I know that one day this is what I want to help people do, is because I know the importance of growing your finances. Don't look at money as a green piece of paper and like a currency and like hey, I use this to trade it for these flashy things. No, look at it as a source of peace and stability. I think when you start to look at money that way, it's like as you grow your money, you can become more financially free and stable. There's a group that I'm in right now, a Connect group in my church, and it's all about God's formula for financial freedom, and it talks about tithing and other things and setting your faith foundation and all these other things. And I don't want to dive too much into that right now, because that's like a whole other topic, but there's importance on that I can talk about too. Check Facebook real quick. Let's see. All right. Guys, I think I'm going to wrap up in the next couple minutes. If you guys have any questions or want to drop anything in here, we're pretty much at the hour mark. So let's see what we can put up here. Next week, like I said, after hours, I'll tell you guys what the topic is. So basically, there are two-part as always. Zach, if you actually want to come on for that next week, feel free if you're still in here. I'll tell you guys what the topic is going to be. The calendar is on Facebook, and I did put it on Instagram, but here's what we're working with. So this is going to be an after-hours episode, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Thursday. What we're talking about is emotional labor versus provisioning in relationships and marriage. The sexual paywall, is sex being used as a currency or a reward in modern relationships? We had those like types of edgy topics in there, but that's what we're going to be talking about. Male-female guest panel, 9 p.m. next Thursday, Eastern Standard Time. Facebook, YouTube. I'm excited for that one, guys. But I'm actually going to wrap up here for the night, guys. Going to wrap up here. And so that being said, guys, I'll tell you guys, have a great weekend. Great first start to March. Remember to set your clocks back. Saturday night into Sunday, daylight savings time. Unfortunately, we lose an hour of sleep, but positive side of it is we get an extra hour of sunlight, which I always love. So have a great night, great weekend. We'll see you guys next week for episode 247, After Hours. Looking forward to getting on the mic with a huge panel for that one. Take care, guys.